What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So starting off with macro data, there's only one real thing that's coming out, and that is the National People's Congress Standing Committee. So essentially, you won't be having any crazy new policies announced this week, but you could have some plans announced, aka stimulus. So essentially, a lot of data that's been coming out from China has been mixed / probably orienting more to the bearish side. So in general, logically, the next step is going to be some form of stimulus. Last time these individuals did meet was at the beginning of November, late October, and ultimately they kind of said that they were thinking about some form of stimulus, but they want more kind of information and more data, no different than what Powell kind of has signaled in the past. So when it comes down to it, this upcoming week, you could have the market quite hyped up. So again, that is coming Monday through Friday. On a side note though, because of Christmas, so Merry Christmas to all, but December the 25th, the market is closed. And on the 24th, the market does close early at 1 o'clock. So historically, the 24th, as well as the following day, the 26th, we're going to be seeing some fairly low volume. So that's been kind of a common occurrence anyways, but you might see somewhat lower volume. Aside from that, no real companies putting out their earnings. When it comes down to NIO, you might have some FOMO possibly start to kick in on Friday or sometime this week as optimism for their monthly numbers. So that'll be coming right around the corner. So again, that could be a pretty good catalyst in among itself. But aside from that though, there really hasn't been all that much in news associated to NIO. No speculative topics over this weekend. So this week is most likely just going to be largely linked to the technicals as well as whatever happens on a larger scope, because as what I've mentioned in the past, algorithmic trading has been a very large influence in NIO. So for instance, if American data comes in good, such as on the Tuesday we have GDP, if things go good, then you should see kind of NIO participate in a rally as well. So that is something just to kind of keep in mind. Once I go over the technicals near the end of the video, that'll make a little bit more sense. But going into this upcoming week, for shorts, we're sitting at 7.66% of the free floats being shorted. Works out to be 156.1 million shares overall being shorted. Still see some signs of naked shorting, so shares on loan being about 71 million and number of shares being shorted 156. That should never happen. You should never have more shares being shorted than on loan. But there's actually quite a few different companies that's this type of a scenario is playing out. So SEC doesn't seem to be doing all that much. So let me know your general thoughts on that, and if you think that NIO is potentially going to result in a squeeze because of maybe this naked shorting. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Regarding options, so from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be kind of between that 5 to 550. Bears are anticipating for it to be sub 5. For those of you that tuned into my Friday NIO video, you know that I said that there was going to be a strong likelihood that NIO was going to dip below $5 by the close of business day, and that was going to be largely because of shorts. So quickly going back over here, shorts at the end of Friday, they did increase 301,000 shares. When I last did my video, shorts were returning on Friday. So that does mean in the second half of the day, they did double down exactly how I kind of said that they would, causing the stock price to be and closing below $5. The reason why they did that is ultimately because of this. So looking at the open interest, there was about 12,000 at that $5 strike price. I know that's not all that much, but they didn't really have to manipulate the stock price that much. Only because at the time of when I last did the video, I think it was like 503. So they only had to try to push it down 4 cents, not that much, but still they wanted that 12,000 to expire worthless. Looking forward into this upcoming week, we do have 6,000 at the $5 strike price, 10,000 at the 550, 6,000 at the 6, 4,000 at the 650. So kind of low stuff, but still nonetheless, if NIO for whatever reason is close to that 5 or even 550 by the end of Friday, you might see the same type of scenario play out where shorts will just try to suppress the stock price and having all this expire worthless. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Definitely some signs of manipulation. So I know a lot of people always say that there isn't any manipulation, that this is 100% proof. And this isn't the first time I actually called that out, where most likely shorts were going to do something and they do it just to kind of artificially manipulate the stock price. So nonetheless, aside from all of that though, there was one thing that did occur after hours on Friday, which is very abnormal, but you saw some kind of abnormal transactions. So 7.5 and then 1.4 million. When it comes to the whole dark pool, it is very hard to distinguish what is buys and what is sells. But if we kind of orient this based on what happened after hours, it is fair to assume that both of those are buys. So for whatever reason, after hours on Friday, which is odd, normally that's a quiet period, but there was two big transactions. We are kind of nearing the end of Q4, so of course you might be starting to see some institutions rebalancing. So again, that could be happening. And given NIO's price action in comparison to probably other kind of stocks in the fund, it would make logical sense that institutions would be buying NIO as that rebalancing does occur. So that could be happening as well throughout the week, but stay tuned for my dedicated NIO videos where I kind of bring up abnormal transactions such as this. But a couple of key points to watch for this upcoming week with it at 499, smack dab in the middle between this pivot and this S1. So 492 is going to be that strong support. And when that was tested, I believe it was on Thursday, and possibly even Wednesday, that did hold up very well. So we know that's a good support level. So for those of you that want a dollar cost average swing trade, orient that, and then 484 as potential buys. Flip side, 506, 520, and then 528 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. But aside from that, and moving on the actual chart itself, over the past week, it's been relatively flat. So normally whenever a stock is volatile as much as NIO is, and it just randomly starts trading kind of flat and stagnant, that's actually an option trader's dream. I'm sure a lot of people made some pretty significant money during this last week. So let me know your general thoughts on that. But aside from that though, it's not technically down and out just yet, but right now it is still below all the key pivotal moving averages that generally I like to look at. So right now it is below that 10 and also 200-day moving average. So that 10 is at 501. And then that 200-day moving average is at 506. That's going to act as very strong resistance points as well. So that 506 at the same time is linked to that fib level as well. So that's going to be a very strong resistance point. But all NIO does need is a nice gentle push to get above that. And then you could see some very nice price action. Even looking at the market position, you see some strong willing sellers up until around that 509 range or even a little bit lower. But again, all NIO needs is a nice gentle push. And I know the market very much favors kind of launches and demand type of PRs. And with us almost like a week and a half away from the end of Q4, I'm sure NIO is sitting on a lot of good concrete information. And so again, especially how NIO typically is and how a lot of information magically leaks out, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those just pushes NIO above that and really kind of causes a nice recovery. But again, I think you really need that good catalyst, and as well with that committee meeting all this week, if they hint at some form of stimulus, then you could see a very nice push higher. Even looking back, NIO did have a very nice breakout when stimulus was previously brought up back over here. So there was two legs up back in September 2024. So we had a nice push from around 380 to around 540. That largely was because of stimulus optimism. Then we had a secondary push right here. That was because the EU at the time was thinking about removing the actual tariffs. So in general, we can kind of see that it actually does, like, the market moves because of this type of information. So if we get some stimulus hopes, then big things might be coming for NIO. So let me know your general thoughts on NIO. Are you buying? Are you selling? What's your kind of overall thoughts on that? Of course, looking at the flow right here on a side note, this is how you can tell that a lot of algorithmic trading is kind of moving NIO. So all in all, anticipate that to most likely continue to occur this upcoming week. But I do feel that NIO will be able to get above that 506 by the end of this week, and a lot of that will be because of just FOMO linked to their monthly numbers. So let me know your general thoughts on NIO. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. If you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, pop over to my stacked account. I actually do have a promotion this weekend only where I lowered this. So my tier all buys alerts, lowered that from 55 down to 20 just for this month alone, or sorry, just for this weekend. And I do currently have 101 members. So if you're looking for some solid on point signals, definitely worthwhile to check that out. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.